studio now. We have Breffni May, our financial expert of May Financial Planning. Welcome back to the studio, Breffni.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
Okay, as always, we've lots to talk about. It's every month, and we've a number of issues we want to hit on here. We've heard about the Grec exit, first of all. But let's look a little closer to home to something called the Brexit. And that's our great neighbours and friends now, Great Britain, of course.
Absolutely.
So the implications of that would be a much more severe and far-reaching for us. So what would happen if Britain, they're going to have this referendum, what would happen if they actually left the EU as regards for us?
No, back up the truck a bit. I mean, let's talk about what they're doing at the moment. This has now become a real live issue in Britain. And it's a real live issue that's actually impacting on businesses and multinationals in Britain and in the UK. They're actively looking and talking to Enterprise Ireland and the IDA about what are they going to do, what backup plan have they got to stay active within Europe. Because if Britain walks away, up go the borders, down goes the access that they automatically have to the European market. That's gone.
And when you say end of access, is it like exactly what we...
Membership has its privileges.
Yeah.
Right? We have the East European countries which have been banging on our door trying to get into the European Union for the last 20 years. It took us years to get in there. I remember what it was like. We were left sitting outside with the begging bowl. And eventually Charles de Gaulle moved from the scene, and then Ireland got an opportunity to get into the game. If Britain exits, they exit the same way that Iceland did. And people forget that Iceland was in and then walked away. When they walked away, they lost access to the European Union, unfettered access. At the moment, Britain have this. If they walk away, it's not just from monetary union, they walk away from direct access from financial services. Multinationals want direct access. They're going to shift their jobs. When you looked at what happened in Scotland and the referendum for Scottish independence, what was the one thing that switched it round? The multinationals, the insurance companies, the banks said, we're off from Edinburgh. Scottish widows seriously contemplating a move down south to stay inside England, stay inside what they regard as UK borders. They wanted access. Question was, would Scotland have access automatically to the European Union? If they walk away, if Britain walks away, they have the same problems that Scotland was facing. How do we access?
But Scotland came close, you know.
Yeah, they did. But
I mean, the dangerous thing about
the day, what turned that one around had nothing to do with the politics of it. It came down to the pocket, and you know they're canny people. They're not silly either. But it also means jobs. If you've got businesses that are based in London, high quality jobs, they're in financial transactions that are taking place. Financial transacting companies that handle all the investments, and they decide London's not a good place to be. Let's move over to Dublin. They're now in the middle between Europe and North America. There's a thriving financial services industry here, and they are talking about setting up alternative structures here in Dublin. And it's in the papers all over the weekend. Now, if that's what's happening and that's the vision that's taking place, Mr Cameron is very well aware of that, and so would the Labour Party, and so would UKIP. Now, do you honestly think that the British people are going to see their jobs disappear and go down the pan? Not a snowball's. There are huge implications for them. There was a poll came out recently about European membership. 45% of the average Joe in the street still wants to stay within Europe. So there's all to play for. 5%. That was 35% 2 years ago. Now it's down to that. Now it's gone up nearly 5%. And they don't. All they need is a majority. 50 plus 1, and you're in. You stay there. But they would be losing quality jobs out the door. And that really is not. That's not something they're going to put up with. It is a big, big concern. How would it impact on us? They're our major trading partner. That could be devastating for a lot of businesses.
I mean, an interesting statistic is the UK exports to Ireland more than China, India, and Brazil combined. That's how big a trading partner we are with them.
And what happens? They leave the European Union. Up go the borders. We now have borders back in place again. We now have restrictions on goods coming in and out. America doesn't have unfettered access into the European Union. At the moment, they have to trade negotiations, so they'll all start all over again. And once you're outside the game, the protections go up. And we can say, hang on a second, we don't really want your cars in here. We'll take them from France. We'll take them from Germany. And we can put up the protections. You don't know what the implications are going to be. From our point of view, trading into Britain, That could be problematic. The REC is a big enough barrier to get across anyway. Everything that comes across it into this country costs more, and everything going the other way could suddenly become more expensive. But it will impact on Irish businesses. Or we'll make the decision, no, hang on, we'll move and talk to our colleagues in Europe and reduce our expenditure, reduce our dependence upon them. There's a lot to play for here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, let's turn to domestic matters and our two pillar banks, shall we say. They're releasing end-of-year results. Let's say we've our Bank of Ireland and the EIB. Let's call them our good prodigal son and our bad prodigal son, because they're both prodigal sons, really, at this stage. So the good one last week, or the better one, the best of a bad lot, released their results, and 920 million pre-tax profits. They say 9 out of 10 homeowners, they're restructuring arrangements as regards mortgage arrears. It seems positive.
It seems positive. It is positive. It also is positive, and it has to be positive. They have a brief, get yourselves ready for sale. The Minister for
the Bank of Ireland, yeah?
The Bank of Ireland and AIB have been told, get yourselves ready for sale. The Minister for Finance has said, yes, he's seriously looking at selling 25% chunk of AIB and selling a chunk of Bank of Ireland and getting that back in the market because he wants the money back in. Remember, there's a budget coming up next year.
But isn't there a huge disparity? We own, as in the state, the taxpayer, we own 14% of Bank of Ireland, yeah?
Yes.
But we own 99.8%. That's an exact statistic. In other words, we own everything bare 0.2% of AIB. So there's a huge disparity there?
Yes, there is. And it's a question of how much do they want, how much capital does the government want to raise on the sale of AIB? That's really what this is coming down to at the end of the day. And is it good value for you and me? I mean, they've got a balancing act to play here. Whether, letting some of AIB off and letting the rest of Bank of Ireland go, is that the right thing to do? Are we going to get value? Because there's a huge level of debt that's there that we've taken on that needs to be recouped. If they release it out and reduce their expenditure, reduce the state's shareholding and involvement in these businesses, that's what they are, and they go back into the market and trade themselves profitably, and the share price goes up, you and me benefit at the end of the day because our debt will be reduced by the amount of capital that's available to us. And we're having to service the debt for the money that we lent to them to rescue them. And any money that we can recoup back from that can shove down that debt and reduce the cost to you and me, the taxpayers who are paying for this on an ongoing basis, can't be bad.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's look at the IAB specifically because it's not on the Isaac, it's on the junior ESM market in Ireland, which would be the Irish equivalent to the British AIM market.
Right.
And it has, at the moment, it's on the stock exchange is worth approximately 40 billion, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, share price. Now, last year, the NTMA valued the AIB at 6.5 billion. Now, that's a factor of nearly 7.
Yes.
That's quite a disparity, isn't it?
It is, but that's how long's a piece of string. It's
right.
This is a bookkeeping exercise.
Is it a financial sleight of hand?
Well, no, it's a bookkeeping exercise.
Okay.
It's looking at the value of the asset. What realistically can we get for it tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And if you put it on the block tomorrow, and when you're looking a year ago, you couldn't have got buttons for it. Today you're getting a lot more for it because it's a healthier enterprise than it was before. And the stock market is the stock market. It's only worth what somebody else is prepared to pay for it. So any share price that's out there is only worth what somebody else thinks it's worth. And if they have a view today and they think it's a wonderful thing to buy into, then the price will go up. If they think it's a bad thing tomorrow, it'll go down again. I mean, that's as hairy as that's the market.
Well, I'm thinking of Joe and Mary out there, let's say. Maybe it's their pension fund. Yeah. Or their money, they're nest egg, and they want to put money aside for the kids or the grandkids, and they're thinking, right, the price of AIB is shooting up again. It's time to jump in there and maybe make back the losses we made in 2008. Are they making a mistake? Like if
the stock market is the biggest bookies office in the world. You can play in it all day long, all night long, and you can put your money out there if you want to, and you make the punt, you roll the dice, the wheel spins, and good luck to you, sunshine. And if it comes in, happy days. If it doesn't, you lose.
That fills me full of confidence. And Joe and Mary out there.
But if you're buying stocks and shares, that's what you're doing. And you take a punt. I mean, banks are only worth, they're just like teapots. They're only worth what somebody else is prepared to pay for them. Mm. And you can buy them today on the basis that they're making money at the moment, and tomorrow they can disappear. Be aware. The Minister for Finance has said he is seriously looking at selling a chunk of AIB in October because he needs the money because there's an election coming up next year. and they need to balance the books, and they've a lot of things they need to do, and this is a real asset. And if they're getting it into shape, and AIB is getting into shape, well, not bad. You and me benefit at the end of the day. But he's looking for shareholder value. That means you and me.
So we have to get back 20.8 billion for the taxpayer. So he's in line for that anyway.
He's in line to do
Yeah. All right, Dublin hotel room rates.
Yeah.
It's a PwC report, and it said by next year they will be back to levels price-wise seen in 2007. That's a hugely positive thing,
It's
isn't
a
it?
hugely positive thing. If people want to come here, and people are doing business in Ireland, there is a question as well has to be raised. Is this the right thing to be doing? Pushing up hotel rates, because it's the chicken and the egg. Lots of tourists want to come to Dublin because the prices are cheap. So when you make it expensive, tourists don't come. It's the chicken and the egg and getting that balance right. You also have another imperative running at the back of this, and it's not dissimilar to our previous discussion. The banks are in control of significant amount of the hotel market in Dublin, and they're looking for value because those hotels are carrying debt. They have management companies in there running these hotels. Not all of them, but a significant chunk of them, and they're looking for value, and they're going to push the market and push the price as much as they can. But it's one of these things. It's suck it and see where it goes. It's a market, just like stocks and shares. It is. There is a level at which the market will resist, and when they reach that point, people will stop coming and prices will fall. And trying to get that balance right. And we're coming off of a very low price, which made us very competitive over the last couple of years. Great place to come to Dublin. Nice cheap weekend, lovely people to meet. But if you make it too expensive, they won't be here.
Now, quickly moving on, Willie Penrose and the Labour Party in general came out after their party conference at the weekend. The Irish bankruptcy law. They want to maybe reduce it from 3 years to 1. It's reached a stage where they say the banks, they're pulling out of deals, mortgage deals, and it's now you see it, now you don't. So. Do you think it's a good thing? Maybe we could copy the English style and maybe just get people who are disconnected from the economy now, get them back involved again.
The English process is built over many, many years and doesn't have the level of pressure that we have within our economy. They don't have the level of people with vast numbers of debt, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy and unable to cope. We have a major problem that's particular to Ireland. The problem with the system at the moment is not the bankruptcy laws. It is the system that is there. The insolvency service isn't functioning properly, and it's still growing. There are very small numbers of people who've actually been through it, individuals who've been through the process. It's very, very difficult. Is it going to work? Will they bring it down to 3 years? I doubt it very much. They still haven't fully grown the insolvency service. How long are they in action? Less than 2 years? So they're finding their feet. And, okay, they may not have set it up correctly, but they're learning. And unfortunately, and I keep getting calls from some people, from clients of mine asking me, do you know somebody we can talk to? And the honest answer is, I don't know anybody I can recommend, because my concern is that you can end up being somebody else's learning curve. Because the service is finding out its right, so the insolvency practitioners, what works, what doesn't work. And of course the banks hold the whip hand. They're the major creditors always in these cases.
Just looking at the insolvency service and the stats for 2014, about 1,000 deals were done. I mean, we're talking about 117,000 family home mortgages in arrears. Of those, 30,000 are seriously in arrears. And we also, on top of that, we got 38,000 buy-to-let mortgages in serious arrears. Now, of that, 448 of these were bankruptcies, 251 debt relief notices, which is under 20 grand. So, 97 unsecured debt. So, as against family homes.
Very small numbers.
Very small numbers.
Very small numbers. And, as you put it very simply, Willie Penrose was doing it. There was a Congress on this weekend, Labour Party Congress. My goodness me, didn't he get the headlines?
So basically, this is political sabre rattling.
Yep.
And do you think it'll come to anything, no?
I don't think so.
All right.
I think it's in the early days yet. Why would you take a process that hasn't developed itself yet properly? Why would you take that and grow it and change something that you haven't even proved as whether it's working or not? And that's part of the problem.
So now, there's a particular issue that you want to cover, and that's the illness. Yes. Self-employed and illness.
It's not just self-employed.
The nightmare of any self-employed person.
It's a nightmare of self-employed people, yes, but it applies to everybody else. Unfortunately, in this country, we're not unique, but 90% of people that I meet, their wealth is based on their income and their capacity to earn. And the day that you get sick and cannot go to work, that's when your wealth stops. The bills keep coming in the door, the kids have to be fed, everything that you do has to be paid for. And if there is no safety net in place, then you're in trouble. A friend of mine, I've known him since he was 8. On the 8th of December, this guy did everything right. Cycled everywhere, ate all the right stuff, walked, didn't ever smoke, never drank. And he wasn't feeling too great. He's in his late 50s, running a temperature, went home. 5 o'clock in the evening he was at home in bed and he was in agony. By 7 o'clock he was in the hospital, and by 9 o'clock they were telling him, you're having a life-changing operation. I hope you survive it.
Mm-hmm.
He went back to work last week. Now that punched a hole in his income. There was nothing coming in because he's self-employed. The same thing applies to anybody who's on PAYE. If your employer is not in a position to carry you on salary until you recover, or maybe you never come back to work. And I heard a story yesterday on the radio, they were talking about spinal injuries. About 800 people a year end up in the spinal injuries units across the country, falling off, knocked off bicycles, running around the country. This isn't just an isolated incident. It's not something I'm just talking about for the sake of talking about it. This can suddenly become real in everybody's household. And what I'm recommending to people to do is to take this seriously. Consider, right now, you are not going home tonight. You are going to hospital. How does that impact on your family financially? Will you have an income? Will you pay your mortgage? Where are the groceries going to be paid from? And how will you pay for the hospital care? And assume that this is going to carry on for 9 months. What will that do for you? And if the answer to that question is, I don't know, or Breffni, stop asking me, then you need to take this seriously and talk to a financial advisor like myself. Just to make sure that your family is not going to have a financial problem, because believe me, in a twinkle of an eye, your world can change. A man in a white coat with a stethoscope round his neck can sit down in front of you and say, Porrick, I have news for you. And that news is not great. And then your world changes. And if you're not ready for that, then there's a problem that impacts on all of your family. Take this thing seriously. Talk to a financial advisor. Put some income support in place. Get some professional advice around this. Don't leave it to mishap, and don't just assume because you have medical insurance, VHI or Bupa or Aviva, whatever cover you've got, that will cover you. Take this thing seriously. If you are in PAYE, you have to remember that if you get sick tomorrow morning, you are now on an income of $230 a week. That's it. Nothing else over and above that from the state. You're on your own. And if your costs running your life are more than that, then you're in big trouble. And that's why I'm taking it very seriously. This happens every day of the week, but it happens to people. Now, we don't see it unless it absolutely happens to somebody beside you that's in your circle. Because people who are sick and are ill are in nursing homes and hospitals. They're hidden away in the community, and we don't see them. But behind every one of those names and every one of those people that's in hospital, there's a financial problem. And either you're ready for it or you're not. And don't tell me it's an extra cost. It can be the most cheapest thing that you will do. Is talking to and making sure that you have those financial supports in place. I can't stress this enough. 2 things that matter most: getting sick and dropping dead. They're the most immediate. Dropping dead is probably easier. Being sick is on a long-term cost is hugely destructive to people's wealth and people's finances. Because, as I say, 90% of the people in this country, their wealth is to the extent of their income. If their income stops, that's it. Game over. Everything that you know has just stopped. So take this seriously. Go and talk to somebody like me. And by the way, you actually have to go and talk to somebody like me. We won't come to you because we're not allowed. If you're not dealing with a financial advisor like me or an insurance broker of some description, if you're not dealing with them and you're talking to them on a yearly basis, then they are not allowed to talk to you. Even though you might have taken policies out with them years and years ago, they are not allowed to contact you because it is regarded as an unsolicited contact and can put me out of business tomorrow if I do that. This is your responsibility to protect your family. And don't just assume that it's the breadwinner who's out there, one income that needs to be taken care of. What happens if Mammy gets sick or whoever's minding the kids at home? Who's going to take over her role? And where's the cost going to be involved in that? If Mammy's not there, can't contribute, look after kids or whatever, somebody has to come in and do that, and there's a cost involved. This is a serious problem, needs to be dealt with, and it is being ignored.
So, Breffni, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, as always.
Welcome.
We look forward to having you back next month.
Thank you.
So, that's it for this week's show.